I'm Penelope Morrow with Nebraska Public Media. We're pleased to support Lincoln Symphony Orchestra with these pre-concert chats. You can even hear some LSO concerts all across the state on our series Nebraska Concerts, which airs at 11 a.m. Central Time on Fridays, hosted by Laura Black on our statewide radio network. I'm joined for this chat by music director Ed Polachek and featured soloist for this concert, Scott Anderson. Since you could either be enjoying this chat with the concert, imminently following or a few days ahead of time, I'd just like to note now that the concert is Friday, November 7th at 7:30 p.m. Now let's chat about exploring the expanse. Ed, Scott, great to see you. How you doing?
Good afternoon. Good to be
Good
here.
Good
afternoon. Yeah,
afternoon.
good afternoon, Ben. Great to be here. Thank you.
So let's start out with a bit of fun, shall we? It's hard not to think about like who one might meet out exploring the expanses of the universe. So if we truly are not alone, do you think they call the sport soccer or football on their planet?
Boy, that's a good one. I'm stumped. I'm gonna go with football. Yeah, I think football.
You kick it with your foot. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, we're in Lincoln, Nebraska.
That is,
This
yeah,
makes
very
sense.
good
I mean,
point.
we just have to. That's the way life is on this planet.
Well, anyway, on to the
Very.
galactic meat and cosmic potatoes. Uh, Give us some background on the first work for the evening, Missy Mazzoli's Sinfonia for Orbiting Spheres.
Missy Mazzoli she's considered perhaps one of the very first of the 21st century composers to explore in so many different ways uh, uh, soundscapes, and she in her young life so far she has accomplished so much, and she's better known than people actually. I mean, this may be the first time that many of our listeners have heard of Missy Mazzoli, and it's the first time I think we're ever performing anything of Missy Mazzoli's here in Lincoln. But Miss Mazzoli gained, I think, probably kind of popular presence as a composer who many of whose songs she composed and actually performed for Mozart in the Jungle. Probably best known for her work called Impromptu. But she has done so much. She's very much a keyboard player, a pianist, but electronic keyboards and all, and um, for symphonic works, and also primarily in many ways for opera. She was one of the very first women composers to be asked to do a full main stage production at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. So she's got a lot of credentials behind her. This piece seemed like a natural fit on this program because it includes obviously the whole planets that we do on the second half, and and it's a piece called "Orbiting Spheres." It is a work of, I guess I would just call it kind of transcendence. There's such ethereal uh, combinations of uh, various sounds and soundscapes within the work that gives you this feeling of journeying through space or being on one of the spheres as others are passing by and going through fast, slow, bright, dark uh, areas, and it's so well captured in the way she presents that kind of sound. And in fact, the parts of the orchestra, particularly in the winds and in the brass, will be playing actually harmonicas, harmonica in A's and harmonica in C. So you get this juxtaposition of some very otherworldly uh, sounds within the very prominent and usual or ordinary sounds of the acoustical orchestra, the strings, the winds, the brass, and the percussion. Percussion also has some very unusual works or unusual instruments, like a spring coil, for example, or a lion's roar. That comes, kind of unexpectedly, but it's like you don't know if something is approaching you, and you you move. It's great. It's just incredible music. And then to take the orbiting spheres at the beginning and then ending the program with Holst planets, we've chosen to feature one of our great first chair players here in the orchestra, a stranger to no one in the entire area, Scott Anderson, who will be doing the Ferdinand David trombone concertino number 4 for trombone and orchestra. And I'm going to let Scott really take the ball here. I have my own things about David, but I think Scott, I mean, when we met, also, I have to say, just to go through the piece, Scott sounds phenomenal. I mean, you can't believe that a trombone can do this, and it is just so beautiful.
I've heard that rationale used in the pejorative as well. You can't believe a trombonist can do this. So we'll go with the positive on this.
Yeah, but I don't mean it that way. Well said.
Well, I feel really honored that I get to do a solo with the orchestra because it's really not within the trombone realm. We don't do this very often. There are a
Right,
bunch of reasons for it, and not the least of which is repertoire.
right.
You know, we have solo pieces. I remember this. Melinda Wagner wrote a solo piece a couple decades ago. It won a Pulitzer Prize. It's a brilliant work. It was performed once. These pieces
Once,
don't get played once. It happens. And so when Ed and I talked about solo repertoire, I was pretty emphatic that I wanted to stick with something that's of our repertoire, but maybe from the Romantic period, not from the 20th century, not from the avant-garde, because I want something that audiences can get right away, that they'll like it right away. I've done enough of the avant-garde where the audience takes a couple days and says, "Yeah, in retrospect, that was pretty cool." I wanted to hit them right away. The David does that. Um, it,
exactly.
it's short enough and it's tonal. We've talked about this a great deal. It's Mendelssohn for the trombone, and I love that.
Well,
Fernand David yeah, go ahead.
no. I was just going to say that there's that period of music kind of between the classical period and the romantic period, which is transitional. Mendelssohn is definitely a composer within that realm, as is Schumann. And I guess you can say, to a certain extent, early Brahms, but also the later classical composers like Schubert and late Beethoven. I mean, it feeds into this idea, and you hear it and you go, that is so beautiful, it's so romantic. It's very transparent also. It's just like Mozart and Haydn, and it's actually very difficult music to portray or to perform because of the being right in between the two periods, classical and romantic. And that's one of the things that also I found very special, and it caught my attention immediately when I listened to the David. There's not a lot of repertoire that you can listen to of David, but he was a key figure in that era, in context along with Mendelssohn, that did a lot to promote music, to promote Mendelssohn. He toured Russia. I mean, he was very well known. And a violinist, if I remember right, because I think he
Yes.
played with the Leipzig quartet for like 30 or 40 years. He was an amazing musician and actually a wonderful composer. Two symphonies, I was told, you told me, Scott, that there
Two
are two
symphonies,
symphonies
right?
that he wrote, but they're not an extent. I mean, we don't know where they just disappeared. I mean, which is a shame, really. It would
Yeah.
be.
Almost nothing exists of David except for this piece. And this is a standard. Whenever a trombonist goes to an orchestral audition, the first movement of this work is asked
Yeah.
as the solo repertoire. And it's asked for a bunch of reasons, including, the rhythmic integrity of triplets versus dotted A16s, things that an orchestral committee wants to hear. But as a piece of art, I find it charming. I find it beautiful. It gives me a chance to stretch out and really make a beautiful sound. I
Well,
love
and
that.
and show what the trombone can do, as opposed to being part of a section or an orchestra where you get very often just exclamation points or foundation of other parts of the orchestra. This is, I think, you mentioned certain aspects that in an audition people would be listening for, which is true, but also just the intonation that you have to. I mean, because it music of that period, you just simply can't hide. You are very exposed as to what is being presented. So your metal is tested, and I think it's a magnificent piece. And I'm very excited to be able to do this, and particularly with you, Scott. I, I
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a huge fan, as you well know, of your artistry and your musicianship. So I think it's good for the audience to hear that. You know.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. And you're right. How often do we get to hear a trombone in front of the orchestra? There's an old joke about that, by the way. I'll tell you Ed at some point, but not in mixed company. Uh, it's a trombone joke. So, but to stand in front of an orchestra of this caliber is such an honor. It's going to be a ball. I can't
That's great.
wait.
This is great.
I want to talk a bit about your artistry, Scott, because like
Okay.
in addition to having like a pretty prolific background in like playing trombone classically, you also have an extensive history playing with and teaching rock music. How would you say
Yes, I do.
those experiences like tie into you as a performer and come to show during your performances?
It's interesting. I think there are two kinds of music. There's good music and there's bad music, and I love good music. I'm not I don't want to define it as genres. I was a snob when I was a young person. I'm not anymore. Good. If it's good, I like it. So
Right.
rock and roll gives me a chance to experience the same kind of emotion that I experience as a trombonist. You know, there's beauty, there's melancholy, there's sentimentality. All of those things that I like about playing the trombone also show up in rock and roll. I will say when I teach that, I'm a lyrics guy and I frequently ruminate on lyrics. But the other thing that I find interesting is, on a daily basis, I lecture in front of 300 people every day about rock and roll. It gives me a chance to extemporaneously speak about it. And the trombone is the same way. I get to stand in front of an audience and speak, so to speak. Yeah. So I'm really happy about that.
Something that
Nice.
you touched on Penny here with in reference to Scott is that I think our greatest musicians, our greatest performers, and our greatest contributors, either from a teaching point of view or enlightening point of view, or a performance for an audience, which I think is also an educational aspect of it. But I think that there are not as many people that you would imagine who play instruments, who perform, who can also teach.
Mhm.
And there's that old joke: those who can do, those who can't teach, which is that's always been a saying that has bothered me. Although it, I think, is true on many levels. But the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is that when you can do that, it's a demonstration of who you are as a person and who you are as a musician. And I think that's what goes into then the magic of a person like Scott, who can turn that into the beauty and make that connection from the heart to the listener's heart, and that's what music is all about.
And I
Rock
also I
also.
also love the yeah, I love the idea that this is a chance to grow, right?
Yes.
We're never done. And I want to keep
Amen.
getting better. We're never done. And
Right.
so this is a chance to keep doing this and get better and discover new things. And yeah, I love that part of it.
Yeah. That may be one of the most critical aspects of what a performing musician, a true artist, really goes after. It can be frightening most of the time because you're always striving to be better, and you want to present the very best of what's in your mind, your spirit, your heart, and your soul in the music to the listener. And so you strive to be able to do that. We get closer and closer as we get older, and the more that we do, but we're never 100% perfect. I mean, that's what live performance is, and that's also the excitement of what live music is all about.
Another
Mhm.
like connecting factor between like rock and classical is like a love for the skill and talent that it takes to make a very high caliber, high quality instrument. So I think like a particular guitarist might have like a Fender and it's the only instrument that they ever play and they're known for that instrument. What trombone will you be playing during this concert?
I will be playing
Oh,
this
you
one.
have it there.
My Bach 42B. I've been playing this, not this particular instrument, but this instrument since the early 1980s
Wow.
when I actually had enough money to buy the horn I wanted. And it's interesting. Whenever I try out a new trombone, I play it for my wife. And I, always ask the question, what does it sound like? She said, it sounds like you. Stop bothering me. And she's right. No matter what I take, it sounds like me. So
That's
it's
sweet.
what is most comfortable. What gives me the chance to sound like me? This horn does.
Yeah.
But that's a good question because someone else asked me that, are you going to play a romantic era trombone, which is different? No. I really believe that as
Hmm.
instruments have evolved, they've done just that. They've gotten better, and I'm going to play the best version that I can. Unless you want me to play it on sackbut.
I think
I've
we've got
always,
time.
I've always loved that name too. I just think
Oh,
it's so perfect for that instrument.
kind of is. Kind of is.
But it's, I have to say, if you close your eyes while you listen to this piece, while you listen to Scott playing it, you can't believe that it's a trombone playing it, being played. It's
Thank you.
magnificent. No, you're top drawer, Scott. This is what has attracted me and has kept me as music director in Lincoln, as Lincoln's Symphony Orchestra's music director, is that we have so many high, what I call top drawer, first class players in this orchestra. And the opportunity for me as a conductor to be able to make music with them and to share that quality with them is the most special gift that I could be given. So it's very special for me to have you do this, Scott.
Thank
I
you.
I remember during the pandemic, I don't remember the exact name of the piece that you played, but we wanted to, because you had won the audition, obviously as the principal trombone, and we wanted to feature you, but it wasn't with full orchestra. It was just, I think, was Rich Fountain playing? Uh,
Richard played for me, yes. And
yeah,
in those days, because all we knew was what we knew, we had to play with bell covers on.
right,
And it really kind of messed with all of us. But the piece was by Jeanine Rouf, French composer. It was a
right,
rhapsody, and it's one
right,
of my
and
favorite French pieces.
and it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. But I thought, I can't wait till we get through this pandemic and all the restrictions that had been placed on us till we get to a place where that you can be really with the orchestra doing it. So this is a very special moment for the orchestra and for Lincoln, for gosh.
Well, and I have to
I
say, for my part, it 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 makes me nervous in a good way to play in front of this orchestra because these are some of the finest musicians I get to work with. And not just now, ever. These are
And
these are really top-notch players.
and they're your colleagues. It's always
They
difficult to
are.
play, in front of your colleagues. It is, but they're also incredibly supportive, which is one thing that I just think is so beautiful about this orchestra. I just love this orchestra.
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
played in
sorry to be the
orchestras.
bearer of bad news, but I think we are running just a little short on time.
That's
So,
what you get when you let us just talk,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a
right.
great conversation. It's hard to stop you. Well, I think that serves as a great introduction to the concert Exploring the Expanse, Friday, November 7th at 7:30 p.m. at the Lead Center for Performing Arts. Ed Polachek and Scott Anderson, thank you so much for this delightful conversation, and I hope you have an out of this world concert.
Bravo. Amen.